Welcome to Taiji's Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you about Japanese geography. So this is the kind of video I've been meaning to make for a while now about Japanese cultures, but wasn't sure if this would be interesting enough for you guys to show, but oh well, let's give it a shot and see how it goes. If you want to see more of these videos, please hit the like button, then I'll be explaining about different aspects of the Japanese culture. I also decided to make this video because I was very inspired by this video. This is a great informational video. He's got some Japanese names wrong, but other than that, it's a great video. You should also check this out. So there's no better topic other than to start with geography, because any culture is heavily influenced by its geography, and especially Japanese culture is heavily influenced by its geography. Then, let's get started. So hopefully you know where Japan is. Can you find Japan? Exactly. It's all the way in the Far East, and that's why they used to call Japan Far East, the farthest from the Western culture. But you guys have been using the wrong map. So the map you should be using is this, where you find Japan right in the center where it's supposed to be. Just kidding. So when you look closely, Japan is an island country. It actually consists of over 6,000 islands, 90% of them being uninhabited. Japan consists of 4 main islands, coming from the top: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. Over 80% of people living in the main islands, Honshu. And the 3 major cities of Japan are Tokyo, Osaka, and the third is Nagoya, where I come from. And then after that comes Kyoto. The population of Japan is about 126 million people, 90% of them living in cities. So Japan is not that big of a country. The size is about 377 square kilometers, which is about 25th of USA, or it's about the size of California or Germany. So Japan was established about 660 before Christ. It's actually the oldest standing country in the world. And the Japanese flag, as you know, is this. And the name of the flag is called Hinomaru, symbolizing the sun in the middle, because Japan is a very sunny country. Over 90% of the days are sunny, but also because we're in the Far East, that's where the sun rises. And therefore, sometimes Japan is called as the country of the rising sun. So like I said, Japan is not a big country. It's actually the 62nd biggest country in the world. But if you actually include the so-called EEZ, Exclusive Economic Zone, then Japan becomes the 6th biggest country in the world. And if you look at the whole Japan, Japan consists actually of 70% mountains, which means you only have 30% of already small country, which is flat enough for agriculture, factory, and living. So you can imagine how crowded Japan is. So imagine about a third of American population is living in a size of Kentucky or even Cuba. So that's how crowded we are. Over 90% of Japanese population live in the cities, and 30% of the whole population live in Tokyo. And therefore, Tokyo is the biggest city in the whole world. So Tokyo has the most restaurants in one city, and it also holds the most Michelin restaurants in one city. Then let's go into the basic facts. So even until this point, you can kind of see Japanese geography kind of sucks, but it actually gets worse. Then let's go into the natural disaster in Japan. So Japan has pretty much all the natural disaster in the whole world. So we have earthquake, tsunami, volcano eruption, typhoon, and because of heavy rain, we have flood or even heavy snow, blizzard. The last thing we overcame is droughts. We don't have that anymore, but we used to have that quite often. Then let's start with the earthquake. So Japan sits right in the middle of 4 tectonic plates, and therefore we have a lot of volcano and also a lot of earthquakes. So Japan experiences a lot of earthquake every year. We have way over 1,000 every year. In the year 2020, we had about 1,700 earthquakes. Most of them are so small that we don't feel it, but 7 of them were big enough to feel. And because of these earthquakes, we have much stricter architectural laws. Schools have to be very firm because that's where we evacuate. Every school has to have a big playground where people can evacuate, and we also have every year in schools evacuation training, where you first go under the table, you'll be safe under a table, and then you evacuate to the big playground. Japan experiences a heavy earthquake every 20 to 30, 40 years. Before the war, we had the Tokyo earthquake. After that, we had Hanshin earthquake, and exactly 10 years ago, we had the Tohoku earthquake. It's very, very disastrous, but as Japanese, we are used to coming back from it. Even 10 years after Hanshin earthquake, the cities looks pretty much the same. Tohoku earthquake, we have not recovered fully, especially with the Fukushima, but we're working on that. If the earthquake happens in the ocean, like in the case of Tohoku earthquake, then causes a tsunami. So tsunami is also a Japanese word, just washing everything down and then taking everything back to the ocean. You also may have seen how disastrous it was on the TV, and even after 10 years, we're still recovering from that. And also because of these 4 tectonic plates, we have a lot of volcanoes as well. We have over 100 volcanoes, and 50 of them requires constant monitoring because it may erupt at any point. Some of the recent ones are 2017 we had the Sakurajima volcano, and also 2018 we had a Kirishima volcano erupted. And some people have to evacuate because of the ashes that are falling down on them. Those are the thing that kind of happens every 20-30 years, but what we have every year is a typhoon. From the end of July to all the way through to August is a typhoon season. We have about 30 typhoons every year, not all of them crossing the whole Japan, but some of them hitting right directly in Japan. As a kid, I was happy when it came through in July because the school will be cancelled. Most of them are not that big, but some of them can cause really great damage on the houses. So flooding doesn't happen quite often anymore because of the landscape technology, but we used to have quite a lot of flood because in June and July we have a lot of rain in Japan. And another kind of minor disaster is a landslide. We don't have this every year, but every now and then it happens because Japan is quite mountainous and it rains a lot. We had this summer quite a large slide in Shizuoka Prefecture. So as you can see, Japanese geography really sucks. But because of that, we are very hardworking people, very strong people, I think. And out of that, we have so-called Shoganai-mentaity. Shoganai, it's also another word that you can't really translate to other languages, but if you had to translate, it kind of means can't be helped, or you can't do anything about it. So this sounds very negative, but it's actually kind of like active pessimism, if you call it, saying letting go of the things that you have no control over. Because in the world, there are some things that you just can't control over, and in Japan, that is the nature. So this is another influence of geography on the culture, or the mentality. Then let's get into the climate of Japan. So Japan also have pretty much all the climate zone in the whole world. So in the north part of Hokkaido, you have over the tree line, and then subarctic zone, temperate continental zone, oceanic zone, and subtropical zone. So in the north of Hokkaido, you have a very cold, heavy snow region. If you go down south, so you have a very warm tropical region. So Japan has a lot of negative impact from the geography, but also benefit from those. Because we're so long north to south, if you compare to other countries, you can see how stretched out from north to south. And therefore we have large regional differences in its architecture, in its lifestyle, but also food. And that's also another reason why Japanese food is so diverse. And not only for that climate difference, we have a very distinct 4 seasons. So depending on where you live, you may think, oh yeah, of course, the seasons are different, but Japan is extreme in the different seasons. So spring is probably the best season to visit Japan because Japan, as is famous for its cherry blossoms, a lot of the streets are covered with these cherry blossom trees and it's so beautiful. It's very difficult to explain why the cherry blossom is so beautiful. This kind of shows the Japanese mentality of seeing beauty in the fleeting. Kind of the special thing about cherry blossom is that when they fleet, they just give out the petals and they fly in the wind, and we call this sakura fubuki, which can be translated to cherry blossom snow falling or cherry blossom blizzard, as the cherry blossom petals just kind of fly in the wind, and it's just so beautiful. So if you ever have a chance to come to Japan, I'd really suggest coming in the spring. But of course, it's a time a lot of people come to Japan, so it might be expensive and you might have to compete with other people. But I really highly recommend this season. Then let's go to Japanese summer. So Japanese summer is really hot and humid. One, because we have the rain season right before June to July, but also we're just covered with ocean, so we have a lot of humid from the ocean. So be aware if you come to Japan that you're going to sweat a lot in the summer. Nowadays with the climate change, it's getting worse, and so if you do come to Japan in the summer, be aware. But the scenery is so beautiful, and in Japan it's quite common to go mountaineering in the mountains or even go to beaches. You have both ends, ocean and the mountains. It's also a great season to come to Japan. And also autumn is great to come to Japan because you see the trees coloring so beautifully. In some other countries, the trees don't color up so vividly, so the Japanese trees colored so bright red, yellow, orange. And that's due to the big temperature difference. Very hot summer, but the very cold winter. So this drastic temperature change allows the trees to color so vividly. Especially if you're visiting Kyoto, the maple trees in Kyoto, but also in other mountains in Japan, is so beautiful. So autumn is also a great time to come to Japan. And then winter is also great. A lot of people don't know this, but Japan is also a great skiing, snowboarding country. We were able to hold 2 Winter Olympics, one in Nagano and one in Hokkaido. We have a lot of ski mountains, and most of them are not just like 2-3 lifts, but quite big. And also the snow in Japan is one of the best in the world because in compared to other countries like the Alps in Europe, the water has to travel quite a long distance until it falls. But in Japan you have the ocean right next to the mountains, so you have the fresh snow falling down, and we call it powder snow. A lot of people even from Switzerland and France come to Japan to ski or snowboard. My father is really into skiing and he flies pretty much every year to Hokkaido to ski. And surprisingly, Japan holds the 3 most heavy snow cities. We might not be the coldest country in the world, but because we have the ocean right next to us, it snows quite heavy in Japan. But we also benefit from that. So if you're into skiing, then I advise you to visit Japan also in winter. So that's the end of this video. So I hope this kind of interested you in Japanese culture. If you like what you saw and you want to see more of these videos, please hit that like button. If I get more than 100 likes, then I'll start producing other presentational videos like this on different aspects of Japanese culture, such as Japanese food, Japanese religion, maybe Japanese history. Or if you have any requests, please feel free to write anything in the comments below, and then I'll try to include those in my videos. Or if you didn't enjoy this video and you don't want to see more of these, and instead you want to see only cooking videos, then please hit the unlike button. If I get more of that, then I'm not going to make these videos. And don't worry, next video I'll be cooking some delicious dishes. Then I look forward to see you in the next video. Bye.